Good evening, everyone. On behalf of Drama Club, University of Gorbongo, I welcome all of you to the second Girish Karnad Memorial Lecture. After the passing away of Sri Girish Karnad on this day, 10th of June 2019, the Drama Club of University of Gorbongo has begun a memorial lecture last year to commemorate this great playwright and actor of India. Last year, eminent theatre director Sri Devesh Chattopadhyay had delivered a memorial lecture. This year, we are proud to have another second Girish Karnad Memorial Lecture and are equally proud to have Professor K.S. Rajendran, former alumni and professor of the National School of Drama and artistic director of the LTG Repertory Company of New Delhi as our guest lecturer. Thank you, sir. We have all gathered here to listen to Professor Rajendran, but before that, a few words about the organizers, the Drama Club of University of Gorbong. The Drama Club was established formally in September 2018 as part of various extracurricular activities of the university. The club was established with the goal of promoting theatre practice among the students and also as means of nurturing communication skills and teamwork among the students. Since its inception, the Drama Club had produced an adaptation of Brecht's Galileo, Shonta Shoptok, based on Carol Churchill's Seven Jewish Children, and Natoker Moto, an online play that was created during the pandemic. Our stage plays have had several invited performances across West Bengal. Our online play was recently invited for performance by Jahangirnagar University of Bangladesh. The play has also won the third prize in Shilpi Bitan Virtual Theatre Festival. Apart from stage productions, the Drama Club has also organized online lectures, especially during this pandemic situations. Some eminent personalities, which includes Professor Abhijit Sen's lecture on Tagore's theatre, Professor Soumitra Bosu's lecture on language of theatre, Professor Devesh Chattopadhyay on Girish Karnad, and Professor Vishnupriya Dutt on radicality and theatre training. All these lectures are available on our YouTube channel, Drama Club UGB. We also have our Facebook page, which you may like and follow to get other updates. I would now request Dr. Shomipendra Banerjee, the director of Drama Club UGB, to take over. Once again, welcome all of you to the second lecture. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Paulomi. Thank you very much. Before we go into the proceedings, we have today among us Professor Souren Bandyopadhyay, the Dean of Arts and Commerce, University of Gorbongo. And I would request Professor Souren Bandyopadhyay to say a few words of encouragement. Sourenda, are you here? There are some network issues today because...
Yeah.
হ্যাঁ সৌরেন্দা
আছি সমীপেন্দ্র
হ্যাঁ প্লিজ মানে আপনি যদি কিছু বলেন দুটো কথা
Today our drama club University of Gorbongo organized the second Girish Karnad Memorial Lecture, and I also welcome honorable speaker Professor K.S. Rajendran, former professor of National School of Drama and artistic director, LTG Repertory Company, New Delhi. And I also welcome to all our students and participants of University of Gorbongo. We feel a great pleasure. আমি আমাদের সমস্ত ছাত্রছাত্রী এবং যারা অংশগ্রহণকারী তাদের সকলকেই আমার পক্ষ থেকে অভিনন্দন এবং শুভেচ্ছা জানাচ্ছি, এবং তার সঙ্গে আজকে যিনি মূল বক্তা সম্মানীয় অধ্যাপক K.S. রাজেন্দ্রন, তাকেও আমার পক্ষ থেকে শুভেচ্ছা জানাচ্ছি এবং স্বাগতম করছি। তার অমূল্য বক্তব্য শোনার জন্য আমরা অধীর আগ্রহে অপেক্ষা করছি এবং সমীপেন্দ্র বন্দ্যোপাধ্যায়কে শুভেচ্ছা জানাচ্ছি এ ধরনের একটি অনুষ্ঠান আয়োজন করার জন্য। সকলকে ধন্যবাদ জানিয়ে আমার কথা শেষ করছি। নমস্কার।
Many thanks, Professor Shorin Bandyopadhyay. Professor Shorin Bandyopadhyay, as I said, is the Dean of Arts and Commerce. Thank you very much, Shorinda, for your warm and encouraging words. We have I guess we have a non-Bengali speaking audience today as well, because today's lecture is primarily in English. So just for the benefit of Professor Rajendran and the rest of the participants here, I mean, what Shorinda just said in Bengali was he welcomed the guest speaker, and he congratulated for organizing this. So thank you very much. Now, of course, before we move on, what we do is this is the second Girish Karnad Memorial Lecture. So we won't be speaking, at least on an introductory term, we won't be speaking too much on Girish Karnad. We rather wish to, continue his legacy, to preserve his legacy through our academic work and through our theatrical work. And you see, Drama Club, University of Gorbongo, in a way blends the academic world and the theatrical world. We have, people from the Malda theater community as well, and many other guests from different parts of the country. So our aim is to carry on this legacy of Girish Karnad, and we will continue this lecture series. So this year we have among us Professor K.S. Rajendran, and I take this opportunity
Hello.
to introduce Professor Rajendran.
Hello.
Yes, you want to say
Hello.
something? Please, I would request the participants to please keep yourselves muted for a
Hello,
for
sir.
a while. Mute for maybe he's trying to say something, but maybe he's not audible. Anyway, so as I was saying, so I will introduce Professor Rajendran here. Professor Rajendran is a very well-known figure in theater activity, theater training across I would say internationally. He has been directing plays in various Indian languages. He is, of course, an alumnus of National School of Drama, where he also taught dramatic literature there. He has worked extensively with the Chennai-based theater repertory company, Puthu P. Pattarai, if I have pronounced it correctly. In 2007, he founded the New Delhi Theatre Workshop, which is now renamed as Natya Dharmi. His directorial work ranges from adaptations of Shakespeare, Bertolt Brecht, Eugene Ionesco, Jean Genet, to several contemporary Indian playwrights, of course, including Girish Karnad. He has conducted workshops and lectured on theatre in India and abroad. He was the course director of the UNESCO ITI workshop on ancient Indian drama, held in Bucharest in 2006. In 2008, he conducted the national workshop on Sanskrit play production for the Sanskrit University at its Srinigari campus. His production of Shakespeare's Richard III was presented at the Second International Theatre Festival, which was organized by DATS at Beijing in September 2011. His recent productions show an intense range, a very wide range of directors, of playwrights from different parts of the world. It includes Peter Weese's Marat Sad, Bhavabhuti's Uttar Ramacharitam, Girish Karnad's Wedding Album, Macbeth, Dharamveer Bharati's Andha Yug, Mahesh Dattani's Dance Like a Man, among other plays. Professor Rajendran has also evolved a distinct and a unique style of Sanskrit play productions, integrating the principles of Natya Shastra. His productions are widely acclaimed by the press and the public, and his production, particularly of Girish Karnad's Agni or Barkha, which is the fire and the rain, is on stage for the past 6 years. At present, he is an artistic director of the LTG Repertory Company, New Delhi, where he has produced Henrik Ibsen's Ghosts and Max Fischer's Andorra. He's now rehearsing Girish Karnad's Rakshasa Tangadi, besides creating a revised performance, Pandemic 2020. So he will be speaking, Professor Rajendran will be speaking on his experiences of dealing with Girish Karnad's plays primarily today. and the title of his talk is Text and Performance on Directing Girish Karnad's Plays. So, welcome to you, sir, and the stage is all yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Samipendra. If I'm not audible, please tell me. Am I audible now?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Thank you. I'm really glad, I'm very happy, and I'm thankful to Professor Samipendra for inviting me to deliver this lecture. When I hear the names of the distinguished scholars who have delivered the lectures in the drama club, I'm not a scholar, I'm only a theatre practitioner. So if you're expecting a scholarly talk, maybe I will not be able to, I will be disappointing you. I'll be speaking mainly from the point of view of transforming the text into performance. I accepted to talk about Girish Karnad's plays because in the recent years, I've been doing several of his productions, several of his plays. So I thought, why not on his memorial talk, I will talk a little more about the way the text has been transformed into performances and what are the various things that were there contributed by my actors, my designers, my other technical people. It's a, as you know, it's a collective art. It's not an individual's entirely an individual's work. Quite a lot of changes, quite a lot of interpretations and new ways of representing the words of Girish Karnad emerged during the course of the rehearsals. So I'll be talking more about that, and I'm grateful to Smith for this opportunity. I don't know why when he invited me, I immediately agreed. When I heard that Girish Karnad's word, your name, I thought I should be part of it, even though I'm not keeping well these days. But I thought it would be a very good opportunity for me to get into the theatrical world because of the pandemic. We have wound up our rehearsals. We only have online classes these days, which is a very difficult situation. So I accepted this opportunity, even though I have not heard about this university before. I come from a small village in the southernmost part of India, Tamil Nadu. So I thought, why not we reach to people whom I do not know? Maybe Girish Karnad is a medium to reach a large number of people who are in the West Bengal. The, the another reason why I agreed to talk on Girish Karnad's memorial lecture about him is it need not necessarily be about the author, about the playwright, but I insist. I thought that I should take up this opportunity to think more about the our association with Mr. Karnad, how it all began, and and how he was very inspiration for all of us, a source of inspiration and guidance. This is very important. When I did the first play, that is Agni or Barka, the fire and the rain, I didn't even inform Karnad. I did it for Sriram Center Repertory Company. I thought they will write to normally the office people will write and get his permission and all that. Then in the Hindu paper, it was it was 2014. Still the play is in the repertoire, still we are performing for more than 6, 7 years. In fact, after Aurangzeb for the last 13 years is running. The second often performed play is Agni or Barka. Now, when this was reviewed by the Hindu paper, Karnad was somewhere in Kenya. He read the review in the Hindu paper, the net, and wrote me a long letter saying that he was very happy. I was afraid because I didn't even ask his permission. He read the review, and we introduced a lot of things in the production which is not there in the text. For example, we created a yagna scene with proper rendering of Sanskrit slokas and all that. Before that, I had seen a very brilliant production of the play by Prasanna years back, but that was not continuously performed, even though it's a very brilliant production. Somehow, Energy Repertory Company did not repeat that shows. So I thought we should fill up the gap, and I also thought I should introduce new things. The way the text, any text is inexhaustible. If an imaginative actor, imaginative director, imaginative designer touches the text takes on new forms, new avatars. That's what I believe. And so we have chosen Agnivar Barkar. In his email, he not only appreciated, he has not seen the production, he's only read the review in the Hindu paper. So it was a very encouraging thing for me that Mr. Karnad is happy about it, even though he has not seen the performance. I sent him video clippings and photographs and all that. He was very happy about that. Similarly, when we performed this another play, Bali, it was scheduled on one of the winter evenings in Delhi, very, very chill cold, and people were all lining up. The organizers came and asked me, we may have to do 2 shows. There are so many people standing outside, equal number of people inside the auditorium, so they refused to go. So can you do a repeat show? I said, I would love to do that. I considered my actors, and we did 2 shows of Bali same day, even though it's January 3rd, and it is very cold in Delhi. People stayed back. It's a great surprise for me. People stayed back and watched the second show also. So I SMS message to Mr. Karnad that we are doing 2 shows of it. I was so happy and said that this is the happiest Happy New Year news for me, that 2 shows are being held in Delhi. And I am not a well-known director, and neither my actors are well-known, but Girish Karnad's name, I think, pulled the crowd, and it went on well. I will talk about some scenes of the play later. So, similarly, the third incident that happened with Karnad was when he wrote this play, latest play, before he died. He wrote the play called Rakshasa Tangadi, which is now available in Oxford University Press. English title is Crossing Talikote. It's again a Vijayanagara Empire history-based play. Very interesting dramatic imagination of Deccan history, the Hampi Vijayanagara Empire. I have not read the play because it was not published, but Girish Karnad sent me an English version by mail. I read the play and I thought I wanted to do the play. He gave me his permission. You have my permission to do the play. And we readied our actors and ready to start the play. He is no more. So we have a connection with him. He's a very magnetic personality to influence people. Talking to him is a great inspiration for all of us. So that is why when Samipendra told me about this lecture, I thought, why not about Karnad himself? Because we have enough material to share with other friends, theatre practitioners. Again, I must emphasize, when I get the names of the scholars that your company, your drama club invited, I'm not like that. I'm a simple theatre practitioner, trusting mostly on the young actors' contribution and working on that with this realization that theatre is a collective work. It's not one man's idea. It's a collective work. That's what I thought. And these 3 incidents that I mentioned was always remembered by me whenever I think about Girish Karnad. We have been rehearsing his last play, Rakshasa Tangadi, based on the Vijayanagara Empire. We were supposed to stage on 24th and 25th of April. We have booked the auditorium and all that. The lockdown came in. So our actors were terribly disappointed. They could not perform the play. Still waiting for the auditorium to reopen. Maybe we'll do it when the lockdown is lifted and the auditoriums are open for us. Till then, we used to meet online and talk about the play. Somehow I have to preserve whatever that has emerged in the course of the rehearsals till the show. It is constantly changing. Every day when a run-through is done, new things are introduced by my actors, new things are introduced in a discussion. So it's not something which is rigid form, repeated again and again. I'll talk about it a little later. Whenever I think of Karnad, I have seen his Hayavadana, read about it and seen, even though I have not done it, because B.V. Karan's production I've seen, and I've also seen his production of Taledanda by Ibrahim Al-Qasi. So I don't touch those plays. The best of it has come out. So unless and until I feel and compelled to feel there's something more there Definitely there is something more because the distance of time made the play more fresh, more authentic. So probably we will touch upon those things also later. But he was at one point of time when I joined the National School of Drama as a student, we were introduced to four important playwrights in India: Bharat Sarkar, Vijay Tendulkar, Girish Karnad, and Mohan Rakesh. These four people in 60s and 70s, wherever you go, whichever language in India, these four quartets have made a remarkable contribution in terms of their plays. It has been translated into several Indian languages, performed in several Indian languages. It covered the whole nation. I think it's a great phenomena that happened in the history of Indian theatre. These four people, extraordinarily brilliant plays: Rakesh, Tendulkar, Karnad, and Bharat Sarkar. Bharat Sarkar came to Tamil Nadu for my group to conduct a workshop. We still remember his great contribution to theatre in the theatre of Tamil Nadu. So these four people inspired all of us. And the last person was Karnad to go. He did 2 years back. Very energetic, not only in theatre, he's a public intellectual. Took up the social issues and powerfully represented it. So it's great to remember such a great personality, even though he's not with us. His great works inspire us continuously. Now, before I go into the particular text that we take up this evening, I should say a few generally words about text and performance, the journey of the text taking on, transforming into performance. This is a journey very, very interesting. What we read, the word is the thing. First, you read the word of the playwright. How does one represent it on stage? How it should be a text designed for performance. What do we mean by drama? Drama or play is a text designed for performance. That text is different from the text we see in a short story, in a novel, in poetry, in any other literary form. So the dramatic word is the word that triggers the imagination of the actors, the other people involved in the playmaking, the performance making. This is a very, very inspiring, interesting area for us in terms of how the playwright's words can be transformed into a performance. We don't sit down for a probable meaning of it. A probable meaning, I mean, if 2-3 characters are sitting, we have some idea about the character, they are sitting in a locale, they generally speak a line and respond to that. This way of presenting the plays is gone. There is no point in doing that. The first probable, there are plays done like that, but that is not even scratching the text. We have to go deep into the text. When you read one line, when you enact it, the whole play has a relation with that. Because when the playwright writes the line, he does not abruptly picks up a paper and a pen and writes about it. There's a creative process going on in his mind. And it settles down in words, redrafting, editing it, and reading it again and again, and finally he leaves. So a creative process is taking place in the minds of the playwrights, writers. In some level or other, it cannot be the same, but in some measure, in some form, it should happen in the actor's mind also when he reads the text. He should not settle down for a probable location, a probable life situation, and a probable way of delivering those lines, which is quite convincing. But it does not test the line. No, a text is waiting for a reader to come and find a new meaning. You must have been familiar with reader's response theory, where the text is inviting the reader to come and discover a meaning. So, in a way, it is inexhaustible. If it is a performance text, if it is a fiction designed for performance, it comes alive only when an actor imaginatively utters those lines convincingly to the live audience. So these are situations very, very interesting in terms of converting a dramatic text into a performance. Now, every text is a test for an actor. He should not settle down for one meaning. I work with great actors whom I always used to provoke. If you do not want to do this, it's very good. I like it. Can you do it again without following the same set of principles? I want a different presentation. So they come up with 2 or 3 ways of doing it. I quite like all 3 of them. But which one has to be done, which one has to take place in a performance, that is left to the actor. That's why there is no one right way of acting. There are 100 different ways of acting. It depends upon the actor. Because when we ask this question, where does the performance lie? The performance, is it in the playwright? Is it in the text? Is it in the director? Is it in the audience? Is it with the actor? Where does it lie? The performance lies in the body of the actor. That is why not only different performances of a play, like Macbeth, several groups do it. Every Macbeth is different. It's not the same Macbeth. So even same actor doing different performances at different points of time, it will vary. So this is the beauty of the performance. Everything is set in a football game. 11 people, players here, 11 people there, a goal post, the rules, regulations. But every play is different. We don't see the same play repeated again. So that is what makes live theatre performance great, great medium of entertainment and instruction. Now, when you see this journey, text to performance, I take the actor as a companion with me to try out several ways of presenting it. I'll come to some specific examples little later from Girish Karnad's place, whatever I remember, because I could not organize my talk properly, but I thought I'll try and bring a few scenes from Agni Barka. And if Mipendra wanted to show some visuals, it can go on while I'm talking. If the scenes are there, I can see those scenes and also represent them in my talk. To begin with, we sorry, my lips go dry very often. I'm just recovering from anyway. So the very first scene of the fire and the rain, the Agni Barka, is a yajna is conducted because there was famine in the country. There was no rain for more than 10 years. So in our tradition, we have this yajna. So that the yajna is for a long time till the rains come. So the play text only says yajna is conducted and those Progis or the yajna people, Brahmins who conduct these things, recite a Sanskrit sloka and the yajna scene is structured like that. But Karnad gives very minimum details. Yajna is conducted for rains, appealing to. So we were searching. We do not want to present the scene with a probable imagination of any audience or actor. Most of the plays immediately go for a brick kiln kind of thing, where the yajna is conducted, where the ghee is poured, and the real flame comes out of it, and the Sanskrit sloka is recited. This is an easy way of settling down for that scene. But we thought we should not do any of them. Even though the scene is only for 2-3 minutes, we spent a lot of time in terms of devising the performance. I wanted my actors to understand when you touch a text like Girish Karnad, which is a dense text, it's not a text that simple rendering will be sufficient. So we took the opening scene as a challenge, and I told them there should be only empty stage. We should create a yajna mandapa. We should create the fire. We should create the gestures for rendering the slokas. And we searched in Rig Veda the actual suktas which appealed for, recited, chanted for the rains. We recognized the sloka, we read the meaning of it, and then we don't know how to recite it, chanting it. So we requested a Sanskrit Pandit to come and teach my actors how to recite it as they were traditionally doing it. Daily we practice for 1 hour Sanskrit sloka. The play was in Hindi, people actors were all in Hindi, but a Sanskrit Pandit came and taught us how to chant this sloka. I structured the mantapa in terms of 4 or 5 people sitting and gesturing. There was no literal yagna kunda or any of that thing. It is just, yeah, you can see the visuals. This is the scene. This is the scene of the yagna kunda where the Brahmins recite it. And when we did this, I thought the gestures should correspond to the chanting of the sloka. Because people are sitting and just reciting it, it will not create an image in the minds of the audience. So I wanted to create the Yajna Kunda, where the ghee is poured, where the fire comes out. We placed Vishaka, the important female character in the play, at the center. Vishaka is fire. Later it acquired several meanings which is unintended even by the playwright. But the audience liked it. She is the fire in the center of the Yajna Kunda. And the prophets were sitting on 4 or 5 sides. The Brahmins were sitting 4 or 5 sides of the 4 sides of the Yajna Kunda and reciting it in a very beautiful chanting way. In fact, when we were rehearsing the play in Sri Ram Center basement, many people come. Some puja is going on, some ritual is going on. So they have never heard a Sanskrit sloka being uttered in an Hindi production. There are songs, there are interesting music and all that, but reciting a Sanskrit sloka would mean, as Swami Vivekananda told, if you utter a Sanskrit sloka, your body should be primarily changed. It should acquire a physical position. During the course of this recitation, I discovered the voice culture of my actors changed. This is an advantage, bonus for us. They all coming up with proper breathing and reciting the sloka, because the Pandit who came to train us, he was a professor in Sanskrit in St. Stephen's College, he took enormous effort in terms of making every actor render the sloka in the proper way. So we spent a lot of time. From moving to the first scene, first few lines of the play, to the second line, I understood the play performance making should not be hurried. It should go slowly, even if it takes more than 2 months or 3 months. That is where you really exhaust the potentials of the text. Any probable imaginative way of rendering a yagna is sufficient. Brahmins cheating and slaughtering, a few seconds of it. But the questions we asked were, what was the belief of those people? Why is this ritual? Because there is a lot of talk about Haravasu, the chief priest of the yajna, later talks with his wife what a yajna means. It goes deep into it. Yajna means what? Once it started, it should never stop. It should go on 24 hours. It never stops. For many years they will, till the rain comes, because something like the present crisis that we're all facing, Corona, there is no solution at our side. I don't know what it will happen in the long run. Something like that, it is shaking the very conscience of the people. So it should be an effort, even though I don't believe in any such yajna and all that, but people believed it at one point of time. People, not one people or two, the entire village, entire town believed in that time. So when these slokas were recited, chanting, when I listened to the chanting of the sloka, I thought the body movements of the actors are not equally matching with that. So I have to create new gestures to support the powerful rendering of the sloka. So the choreography, the entire way of presenting the scene completely undergone a change. Had I settled down for a proper yajna mantapa and realistic fire and all that, this would not have emerged. In fact, in earlier productions, when many products of Agni Barka had seen, they really did not worry much about it. It was a very passing scene in the play where a formal yajna mantapa was conducted, some bricks in the center. We are used to that kind of thing in our rituals, in our temples, and in our homes. So why I'm saying this example? A text, you cannot exhaust it. Any imaginative actor, any imaginative director, designer, music designer, choreographer, light designer, they all create and add up to make an extraordinary experience of the light. Where is the strength coming from? The strength is coming from the poet's imagination, playwright's imagination. You know, Girish Karnad in his younger days wanted to be a poet, not a playwright. He wanted to be a poet. When he went abroad as a Rhodes Scholar, his wish was that he should become a playwright. Poet, but he became a big playwright. In Indian languages, in a traditional Indian language, Sanskrit or Hindi, we don't have a word for playwright. Playwright is also Kavi, Mahakavi Kalidas, Mahakavi Basa, Mahakavi Sudraka, Mahakavi Bhavabhuti. So in our tradition, a playwright should be a poet. Kavi, the Kavitva should be there in the text. It is not arranged series of life incidents arranged in a particular manner to convey a narrative, a story. That is not a play. A play is a well-structured poetic work, brick by brick, word by word. Like in Kalidasa's Shakuntalam, for example, A.K. Ramanujan analyzing it in a very interesting essay called Forgetting and Remembering in Classical Literature. He says the first act is exactly like the seventh act in Shakuntalam, Kalidasa's Abhijnana Shakuntalam. Second is like sixth, third is like fifth, fourth at the center, where Shakuntala leaves the ashrama of Kanva. He says it is not a linear narrative. It is a spiral narrative. The Indian way of imagination, Indian way of dramatic imagination, is strikingly different from the Western way of imagining things. To a great extent, Girish Karnad was influenced by Sanskrit plays. He has written an essay on Bhavabhuti, who wrote Uttarramacharitam, very great work. I have been tremendously influenced by this thing, in which he uses this device called Garbhanatakam, play within the play. Girish Karnad has used that in Agni Barka, a play within the play, to tell the story more effectively, to look at it, look at the issue, look at the problem in different dimensions of it. That for the West to know about it maybe in 16th century, they used the device called play within the play. But it was defined in Natya Shastra. What is Garbhanataka? A definition, and it's beautifully incorporated in playmaking by people like Bhavabhuti in Uttara Ramacharitam, that's the Rama's post-Ramayana, where Sita was banished to the forest. We do not know what has happened. A very beautifully structured play work. So, in one of the articles, Girish Karnad says, Bhavabhuti is the playwright of all playwrights. And he very beautifully integrated this Garbhanatakam, play within the play, in Agni Barka. We come across a story in a completely stylized form within the play. Haravasu, Paravasu, every narrative, and then we see play within the play. They all go to see a play, watch a play. The play opens like that. A theatre group comes to offer a Sakshu Yoga, Yajna. the visual sacrifice, a theater performance as a part of ritual, yagna ritual. But then a story develops in a different way. So theater as an offering to God, theater is an offering to the sacrifice already going on in the form of yagna. So this idea of play within the play is there in many of his plays. In some plays it is properly structured, like in Agnivarka. In some it is indirectly, it is there part of his imagination. In his later play called Wedding Album, which I did in Delhi, so two different productions, one for Indira Gandhi National Open University and another for my own group. And we'll talk about it a little later. So this Agni Barka is also a play, a modern continuation of Sanskrit playwriting. You know, Karnad's interest in Sanskrit drama, Karnad's interest in Natya Shastra, Karnad's interest in exploring these old texts. In fact, Karnad's dramatic imagination is full of folk tales and mythology. Takes up right from Hayavadana, Ayati, Nagamandala. He takes up scenes from, takes up tales from tradition and converts it and remold it to the contemporary situation. I think most of his great plays are based on that. Even though he's written a play like Wedding Album, which is a contemporary realistic kind of play. Before that, Anju Mallige, which is a play, earlier play, which is a realistic play. But he excels in handling tales, folk tales, and mythologies. That is his great form. That is where he has very beautifully expressed. Even though his political voice can be heard in the plays based on history, for example. Tughlaq, which Ibrahim Al-Qasi produced it. Tughlaq, Tipu Sultan, Thaladanda, which is about Basavanna, the Vachana Kavyas, Basavanna, and the last play, Rakshasa Tangadi. It is about Vijayanagar Empire, a political play again. But in all these plays, he is touching upon a very interesting thing that is happening in India again and again and again. History repeats. When we are working on this play, let us play Rakshasa Tangadi, which is published in English as Crossing Kalikote. Is again Hindu-Muslim thing. Four sultans capturing Vijayanagar Empire, very great empire, which Hampi is there. It's just in half a day it is demolished. We see, Karnad writes, we see this history repeating again and again. Even though there were soldiers in both the sides, Muslim soldiers, Muslim generals were there in both the sides, Muslim people were there in both the sides, but because we are influenced by this Western way of looking at history, it is pictured as Hindu-Muslim conflict, but it is not. In Vijayanagar Empire, where Ramaraja, the Hindu ruler, most trusted soldiers, generals were Muslims. Similarly, the four sultans who opposed him have had Hindu army generals, Hindu soldiers. So it's painting like Hindu-Muslim conflict. It's again distorting history. In the four plays he wrote, Tughlaq, Tipu Sultan, Thaladanda, and Rakshasa Tangadi, the last play. Four plays based on history. These are not just historical events. He has carefully weaved the contemporary things into it. Only an imaginative actor-director can bring the text alive and relate to this thing. But it is there inherent in the text. It's up to us, the directors who produce it, actors who perform it, to discover that great thing that is there in the text. I'll now move on. What is the greatness in Karnad's imagination? I told you the folk tales and mythology. Yasodhara Purana for his play Bali, which I did. Yasodhara Kavya was the source. Earlier play Nagamandala, Hayavadana, Agnivarka, sources of Mahabharata epic tales. So when one source of his influence is A.K. Ramanujan, the great scholar who passed away. So your Ananthamurthy, whenever A.K. Ramanujan visits India, he wrote in his obituary, whenever A.K. Ramanujan visits India, two of the Kannada playwrights conceive and deliver two plays. Kambar, Chandrasekhar Kambar, and Girish Karnad. He comes with folk tales. He is a great compiler of folk tales and writer about it. Folklore is one of his major areas of exploration. So whenever he comes, both these playwrights in Kannada, Kambar and Karnad, they are influenced by these folk tales and they deliver plays. Like the Nagamandala and Kambar's play are based on the same folk tale. The tale is from Ramanujan, A.K. Ramanujan, a great folklorist. So, in a way, the dramatic imagination of Girish Karnad is Indian. You know, when there was in India, when we all looked for theatre of the roots, what is Indianness in Indian theatre? Because we were very playing Shakespeare and all American, European playwrights translated into Indian languages. We were all there. Our idea was diverted towards Sanskrit theatre, Indian theatre, traditional Indian theatre. You must have all heard about the theatre of the roots. When this came up, Girish Karnad is the only playwright, I would say, who has understood this Indianness in Indian theatre. These four plays, Hayavadana, Nagamandala, Bali, Yayati. These are Agni and Barga. Very good examples of a continuous modernization of Sanskrit dramaturgy. Since when I done most of the Sanskrit period works, so my first choice was Agni Barka, the fire and the rain, because I find a lot of Sanskrit dramaturgy working in the play, which involves the actors should learn a particular style of acting, speaking, with a lot of gestures in the playmaking. All has to be done with a choreographer's aid, with a Sanskrit Pandit's aid. So it's a question of recreating the tradition, not for the decorative part of it, not for the pleasing visuals, but meaningfully integrating them into the playmaking, performance making. This is what we made an attempt to discover that. And in the course of the playmaking, we discovered several gestures. As Bertolt Brecht is talking about the new gestures in political history of India, Mahatma Gandhi lifting the salt in Dandi Yatra is a political gesture. He went and lifted the salt from Dandi. The whole nation came to a halt. Europeans don't understand. For them, salt is not in their economy. The whole country came to a halt when Gandhi led Dandi Yatra. Those days there was no national telecast or anything. But the India came to a halt. They could not realize what is this old man Gandhi is doing. What is this political gesture about lifting his salt and getting arrested? So many people getting arrested. So if you look at it, it's a political gesture, which Mahatma Gandhi did. So when we look at these gestures, the stylized acting, the rendering, chanting, use of mass, several devices that Indian theatre made its part of its expression. All these devices will be used in Girish Karnad's plays like Agni Barka. Now, I talked about this play, which is a play. I would request my friends to read. Girish Karnad has written an essay on Bhavabhuti. It's called Playwright of the Playwrights. Nataktaram ko Natakta. In producing this play, we came across several parts which were not convincing when I was rehearsing to play Bali, which was also produced by many other theatre directors in the country. We did recently, 2 years back. There is a line this Queen Mother speaks. Queen Mother says, मेरी कोख लोहे का है. My womb is made of metallic. When this line comes, and she tells this line to the daughter-in-law. When we were working on this line, my actor was a very, very senior actor with great lot of yoga, physical exercise, physical theatre and all that, with enough experience. She was trying to tell in different ways, but I'm not convinced. Neither I don't know how to say these words. But I know this much, that this is not the way of presenting this line. So she tried again and again, and she got fed up. What is it that you want, sir? I don't understand. I said, I don't know myself. Had I known what is the form, I would have told you. When we keep on trying, she brought in her entire body. I told you the performance lies the actor's body. And she organized herself and lifted the pelvic region of her body and said this, Mera Kok Lohe ka. I said, this is what I want. This is more convincing. It is not uttering the word. I used to believe, I say, acting is text. Not out by the actor. Through his or her body. Actor possessed by the text bodily. Acting is possessing the text bodily. It is not uttering the text. It is not showing some standard determined structures of mudras, and that is only a semiotic body. The phenomenal body opens up when the emotion, when the meaning is completely captured in the body. So, possessing the text bodily. How will you do that? Where is the energy coming from that? Again and again and again going to the text. Placing yourself in the physical, mental state of the character. It's a long journey. So we have to repeatedly do it to arrive at a convincing, presentable form. Now, in Bali, the prince, the queen, while she is sleeping with her husband, the Raja, listens to a song coming from a long distance. He gets up from the bed and goes to the place. It's a ruined temple. He listens to the song, meets the singer, who happens to be the elephant caretaker, Makhawat, sleeps with him, and when she was discovered this by the king himself, who followed her, he says, I did not commit anything wrong. The song that we used, because there was no song in the play, we used Kumar Gandharva's Gur Jayega Hans Akile. That was the song we used, a very famous song by Kumar Gandharv. We used in Kumar Gandharv's voice. That song was rendered. And she gets up from the bed of the king. She has great respect for the king. She Sarvasreshta Purush mera pati hai. She says. She enters into an argument with the Mahavat later. She goes there. I came here because of the song. And she sleeps with him. You will be surprised. 3 women wrote to me on the very night of the performance. They found it extremely interesting, and they don't find fault with the queen. There is no moral questions involved in that. I have little hesitation about doing the play, but then when these kind of responses come, similarly, the way of presenting the union between the Mahavat and the queen is done in several ways, finding gestures, movements, bodily involvement, with one lifting the other. Several theatre games we played with, and structured that particular scene for about 10 to 15 minutes in various ways of representing the union between the queen and the and the Maghavat, elephant caretaker. So the plays by Carnaud poses a great lot of challenges. If you seriously go deep into the text, if you are happy with the scratching level, if you're happy with the superficial level, that can be done like any other production. But if you scratch it, if you go deep into it, it not only enriches your experience, it brings out something hidden, something which is not visible. I was, whenever I discuss these issues, I used to mention Abhinav Gupta. Abhinav Gupta said, the text is like a dry wood. A dry wood fire is latent. To bring out that fire, the actor's performance, the actor's contribution. The actor has to bring out the latent fire in the dry wood. Dry wood is the metaphor that Abhinav Gupta uses it. To a great extent, the Sanskrit tradition contains in its performance, in its performance theory. Remember, Natyasastra is not only a performance theory, it is also a performance manual. From chapter 8 to 13, the entire body prepared for expression, faculty of expression. Now, I didn't touch Ayavadana, I didn't touch Taladanda, I didn't touch
Tughlaq.
no, Tughlaq, the four history plays. I safely avoided that because great product. Nagamandal was done brilliantly by Neelam Man Singh, Taladanda by E. Al-Kasi, Hayavadana by Tarang. I thought I should wait for another 10 years to recreate them. Similarly, the political plays, Tughlaq, Al-Kasi Saab, recently Madhavan, Taladanda, again Al-Kasi Saab, the Tipu Sultan by Krishnaswamy in Bengaluru, Kannada. So Rakshas Tangadi is the first historical play that I'm handling. I'm at the moment working on that. We will be presenting the play whenever the situation improves. In Wedding Album, Girish Karnad questions very seriously the institution of marriage and exposes several things which are not visible or which are covered under the carpet. He brings it up. It's a very, very tough play. I was surprised many people didn't produce it in Hindi. I was the first one to produce it in Hindi. When we played the play in Indira Gandhi National University, Open University, many women in the audience got up and went away. When this cyber cafe scene where the girl is indulged in a sex talk, explicit sex talk with a boy, with a man unknown to her, which was there, taking place in a Karnataka small town called Dharwad. And that girl is imagined to be an ideal Bharatiya Nari by a husband, by a bridegroom coming from US and talking about her. His way of exposing, his way of revealing the truth, which is covered by the carpet, is amazing. Again, that scene, I found it very difficult to communicate with my actors. I told them, whichever you find convenient, you can talk about it. But most of the scenes, most of the lines were uttered by my actors. They didn't find it any difficult in that. Because we know that the institution of marriage is breaking. We have to know what exactly is the thing that we're covering up, and Wedding Album is an excellent example in that way. I think I should stop here because it's already 7:30, and I would love to answer if there are any questions related to the text and performance in general, and Karnad's plays in particular. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I was expecting something more from you. I mean, it was really wonderful listening to you. The way you had started right with Agni Aur Barkha, and particularly your experiences, your first-hand experiences with Girish Karnad.
Yeah.
It was really wonderful.
Thank you.
We will take some questions, but sir's health is not very at its best, I would say.
Yeah.
But if there are any questions from the audience, we have a wonderful audience today. Thank you for being with us. So if there are any questions, you can type it in the chat box. You can also speak it directly. To start with, I mean this is something that I was thinking of asking you. With your experience of working with Karnad and several other plays, this is slightly beyond Karnad, but would you say, I mean, what is your idea of Indian theatre? Because this has been something that has been debated for quite some time.
Yeah,
Yeah, sir, your observations.
yeah. You see, most of my productions were Sanskrit plays. I spent a lot of time, energy in the National School of Drama. Almost all the major Sanskrit periods, I not only taught the students, I also produced it. And I don't believe in this, believe so much in this Indianizing by using mask or dhoti or Ghana or movements. But it should be, I mean, ideal example is Girish Karnad's plays, where the Indian theatre that there was a moment I told you called theatre of roots, going back to roots. Going back to roots does not necessarily wearing a mask or wearing a dhoti or taking a danda or singing a song. It doesn't create a very proper understanding of Indian dramaturgy as it is practiced in the first 10 centuries and then later during the Bhakti movement, Madhyakalin Bharat, medieval India, and then the modern India, in between the British invasion, 200 years of British invasion, suddenly transferred the entire thing into something else. But in Girish Karnad's works especially, I find this form of Indian theatre with all its modern interpretations is beautifully emerging. And I don't believe in the government's efforts to forcefully bring in some folk theatre forms and doing a play. That has become a very, very formula kind of thing. I don't subscribe to that. I don't believe that will anyway represent India. There is a question appeared. Somebody wrote a question.
Yes. I'll read this out.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is Professor Jolly Das. Brilliant talk from a devoted practitioner, which you are. My pranam to sir. Could you please say something about portraying the character of Alia Ramaraya?
Yeah, very interesting. That is something which we recently worked out. Alia Ramaraya emerges as someone with a great ambitious man and a great amount of courage and confidence in himself. The way he has been tricked and put in a palanquin and taken directly to the sultans. The character of Ramaraya is, he himself is suffering because he is only, there's a puppet king, puppet emperor. He is really the actual mover of the Vijayanagara Empire. The downfall of Ramaraja is primarily his ambition. He has got his own army, his own forces, his two brothers. He should have waited for this. He thought these sultans, the four sultans joining together is something which he can easily destroy. But it didn't happen. Karnad presents this play and writes about it. This is what is happening in India again and again and again, a prototype. So Ramaraya, even though a very, very great administrator, very great strategist, but he miserably fails in assessing the enemy's strategies. I look at Ramaraya's failure in terms of strategy, Raniti, and a very ambitious man. Very, very ambitious man. Even in the last minute, he thinks that he can buy those sultans. Poor man was murdered. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Let me just see. Is there any other question? Are there any other questions? Rintika, did you have any question?
Sir, I have written a question.
Yeah. I could not see that text. Can you
No, but
repeat it?
that is, I don't think it's visible in the chat box. I mean,
Yeah.
where is
Okay,
it?
sir, then sir, I want to know from sir that, sir, what is your take about Girish Karnad's incorporation of Western thoughts into Indian plays? Did you face any challenges when you perform Karnad on stage?
You see, I consider any kind of gyan. It can't be a Russian gyan, Indian gyan, or French gyan, or jnana is jnana. It is not anybody's private property. It can't be put into a nationalist stamp, Indian thought or Australian thought or French thought. Or Girish Karnad looks at it in a very, very broad picture. He doesn't confine himself. Anything that is happening anywhere in the world, with any person with consciousness of what is happening around him, observing the world, it should be naturally integrated, provided it should be convincing, provided it should have an international influence or impact, not confined to particular region, not nationalism, for example, is nowadays you see that I want to play Shakespeare's Henry IV, Henry V to counter the kind of nationalism that our people in power are promoting. Karnad questions that. He is not only a playwright, he is also an activist. See, when in his last days with the pipe fixed to his nose, was not well, even then he went and protested about this Civil Citizenship Amendments Act. He took active part. He's a public intellectual. So I won't say that is Western thought. Maybe while studying, we read it as Western thought. It is integrated into the universal thinking. It doesn't have, when he integrates any Western ideas in his plays, in his works, it doesn't show like something foreign put in inside. See, Girish Karnad was the one who translated Evam Indrajit into English. Evam Indrajit at that point of time was considered an existentialist play. Existentialism, but Sarkar's play introduces a very new, fresh way of looking at it. It may be influenced by existentialism, but in Evam Indrajit, Amal Bimal Kaval and Evam Indrajit, we don't find that. We find that beautifully integrated into an Indian life situation. That is what Girish Karnad did. Oh, the question disappeared.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I'll read it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, Shejuti Bakchi's question. Sir, I would like to ask that as a director, how do you instigate your young actors of Delhi to bring out the Swatvikam in their acting without falling in the trap of realistic acting? Yeah.
Yeah. You see, this Satvika question is a very difficult question. You know, Angikam, Vatikam, Aharyam, we can explain easily. But this Satvikam, which is internalizing the character and emotion, it is achieved by only some senior actors, especially those whose literary knowledge is vast. This I have come across in my actual, when I produce these actual plays. Anybody who has a grounding in contemporary literature, for example, a wide range of literature, he is able to achieve this. I do not tell actors do Satvika. That's not like that. If anyone tells an actor, I want you to do act Satvika Vinaya, it's not done like that. It's like meditation. Meditation is not something that you do, sit there and take a mantra or something. That is not meditation. That's a very limited understanding of meditation. Meditation can be done while you are washing your utensils, while reading the books, or teaching, while talking. So meditation cannot be reduced to something doing. So similarly, Satvika Vinaya is not something that is deliberately practiced and put into a play. Even though the scholars, the Atisastra defines it is one of the things, Angikam, elaborate hand gestures and body gestures, etc. Satvikam, Angikam, Aharyam, Vachikam, create lot of time, but Satvikam it is silent. Deliberately it is silent because Satvika is something which is achieved to Sattva. It cannot be taught by someone and learned by someone. It should flower. It comes into being without an effort. If there is an effort, if there is a system, if there is how to do, in fact, in most of my productions, the best scenes were not mine. I don't tell them you do it like this. They flower and I capture it. A good director is one who captures the best moves of the actors and claims it is his own. That is where the collective thing happens. Many of the best scenes in the play that we are long-running play, Aurangzeb, the last scene, people come to see that last scene. He says, Aurangzeb says, "मैं तारीख बन चुका हूँ. I have become history." Then how will you represent that in the visual form? History. So I told my actors, I do not know how. I never tell them how to do it. I only tell them, look, मैं तारीख बन चुका हूँ. I have become history. So I imagined the cover of a history book. I said, this is what the image I get. Then the actor, who was a brilliant actor, Mahendra Mewati and later Happy Ranajit, they all came up with their own ideas. He takes his mukut, takes his talwar, and then he becomes freeze. The song comes and the red light falls on him. Immediately, it's a very tremendous effect. And people come to see that last scene. Many of them want to watch only the last. For the last 12 years, it's running in Delhi. The last scene, people like it. Interestingly, it was done by my actor. Lighting was done by my light designer. Song was chosen by my music director. I was only a witness to this. My contribution is simply, I want a textbook to come before me and we freeze the play there. Because you have become history. You are past. So some of these things, it is not a deliberate, planned, systematic work planted in a play. It flowers. It flowers in the course of the rehearsal. The best performances, the best things are rehearsals. That is why I tell many times, my shows can be free, my rehearsals are ticketed. That is where we discover things. That is where we really come to a very, very good, several minds confluencing, several thought process, like-minded people coming together. It rarely happens, but it does happen. You wait for it, and such scenes are really memorable.
Yeah, thank you, sir. I mean, who else would be better to answer this than you, because you've been working on Sanskrit classics as well as these modern plays. So another question from Shubroto Pal. Shubroto da is the director of Malda Theatre Platform, which is one of the leading theatre groups in West Bengal. His question is, who is a bad actor?
My last talk in this webinar is the same title, Who is a Bad Actor? It was done by LTG. It's a 1 hour long talk. It's available in my Facebook. I can even send it to you, a copy of it. According to me, the bad actor is someone who is expecting the director to tell you how to do it. He's the worst kind of actor. Because a director can provide a location, explain a scene, and explain what he expects from out of it, but he will never say how to do it. If an actor asks how to do it, then it will not work. Often I used to say, मैं हाथ पाँव कहाँ रखूं सर? मैंने कहा अपने पास ही रखो. Where will I keep my hands and legs? I mean, if you go on detracting about, when you say that, you are in that mental state. When you are in that mental state, automatically your body works. Our body, we should trust our body, we should trust our instincts. It comes up very beautifully well. If as a director I impose a particular thing on him, he will be repeating it. It's already old. So how will you discover something? What is a discovery? What is an invention? Something which you do not know. If you know something and the known is explained by the director and that is produced by the actor, it is already dead. You should wait for something new to happen. Otherwise, as Peter Brook calls, we will be practicing deadly theatre. We will not be producing theatre with flesh and blood.
Yeah, thank you. Sir, I just wanted, I mean, this is information. Did you do wedding album in Hindi or in English?
Hindi. I do all plays. Very rarely I do English plays. Magesh Dattani's plays I did in English because it was a workshop based on English actors. But I did it in Hindi, and we were a bit late to be doing this last play because Karnad insisted that only the Padmavati Rao's Hindi translation should be followed, not by any other Hindi translation. So I had to wait for it to get the translation. It was done and brought to me. We started the work, and in between he's gone.
Okay, yeah, this is very interesting because I mean, this adds to the way the play was performed, I guess, because wedding album was made for an English language. For an English audience. And it's also very interesting that you have worked on Mahesh Dattani.
Yeah, Dance Like a Man is again another long-running play.
And also the Big Fat City I saw.
Big Fat City.
And this is wonderful because, you know, these are very recent plays. Even, do you have plans of doing boiled beans on a toast as well?
Yes, but many of my colleagues have done it in Delhi. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that was it. Another, I mean, two of my students have asked questions. One on what is the purpose of Girish Karna's use of myths, and whether we should call Girish Karna the writer of historical plays.
You see, his historical plays are more relevant to the contemporary times. Any history which is not relevant to our times, any historical play which is not relevant to our times is not a play at all. Just because it is based on real characters lived and died in the past, doesn't mean that we are just repeating the history, decorated pillars, bold Raj Mahals and all that. But in all his historical plays, he brings in a touch of the contemporaneity. For example, Tughlaq, the Nehruvian socialism, the way Nehru was very, very optimistic in his 5-year plans and imposing it on the people. It's a criticism on Nehru. But only people who go deep into the text, who deep into the performance, will be able to make out. For others, it is a story of Tughlaq. Historical play. Just we go and enjoy Urdu and pillars, structures and all.
Not good.
History has something, if you don't read the history properly, it will repeat.
Yes. I had another, question. Actually, I can't turn my video on because I have to check the messages. So I'm sorry about that. The other question was, see, sir, in the photographs that I saw of Agni Aur Barkha or even wedding album, I found your set design to be quite minimalistic.
Yes.
Whereas some of Girish Karnad's plays demands a very gorgeous and a very grand kind of a setup, particularly the history plays.
Yeah.
I mean, so how did you do Rakshata? I mean, this last one, Crossing to Talikota.
Well, Rakshata is not staged yet. We only in the rehearsal stage. What we did was, I will tell you. I normally, even for Agni Barkha, it's an empty stage. It's an empty stage. All sets are human sets. We didn't create anything in terms of, except a few utensils, a few of the things. We didn't create any great set. But for this play, Rakshas Tangadi, Vijayanagara Empire, Hampi, one cannot escape from the beautiful visuals of Hampi. So we made arrangements to use 8 platforms, 8 pillars in the play, and curtains here and there. These are materials available in the Delhi, people who are renting it out, some of them in LTG Repertory Company. We are using mostly what is easily available because we can't invest huge money. In these days, it's very difficult. Even if you sell your ticket for 500, 300, 200, auditorium is full, even then we can't take back the money that we invest on a show. So it has to be minimal, and I never felt the lack of set is a major problem in representing Karnataka. No. If you are imaginative, you can do it. You don't need a elaborate, if you have money, if you have something to show, but it's unnecessary. We have to, the audience minds, they have to imagine things, and the gestures, movements, songs, choreography should generate that light. The way light is used, light is a very, very important segment in terms of creating a visual. So we use only pillars, levels in the various platforms, and curtains. Simple black, white curtains to represent the various locales. And sometimes handheld curtains.
Okay. Yeah, right, sir. Thank you very much for this. Yeah, so we have come more or less to the end of the program. Shejutidi, I mean, if you can just come forward and say what you typed to sir, I think that would be nice.
Oh, Sejuti was my student.
Yeah, she is here. Yeah.
Hi. Sejuti, how are you? I'm so glad.
Are you here, Shejutidi?
Yeah, she's smiling.
Okay.
We are in the laptop. But you're not audible. I think you have to unmute.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, now you're audible. Yes.
Yeah. How are you, sir?
Thank you. I'm fine.
एक्चुअली सवाल जो मैंने पूछा था वो तो आप पहले ही बता चुके थे, तो ऐसा लग रहा था क्लासरूम में फिर से बैठी हुई हूँ, पुरानी यादें ताजा हो रही है।
कहाँ पे आप बंगाल में कहाँ पे हो?
कोलकाता में ही हूँ सर।
अच्छा, ओके।
लॉकडाउन से पहले तक काम चल रहा था, अभी
अच्छा।
वेट चल रहा है।
Okay. Thank you so much. Nice to meet you.
It's nice to see you, sir, too.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Actually, I must tell you, Samipendra, after this last illness, my speech has become very bad. The words started, fumbling with each other. Many people complained. Even when I spoke in Tamil, they said it's very difficult for them to follow. I don't know, because when I listened to those talks, I myself could not understand what I'm saying. This is a difficulty the recent days.
No, sir, it's fine. Yeah, we have understood. And yeah, it is one of the advantage at the other side of all the bad things that have happened to us. One good thing is that we could meet. I mean, this could not have been possible without this online platform. Actually,
Yes.
hearing Professor Rajendran and meeting up old students as well. So that is really nice, and we are. We feel grateful that this could happen. Anyway, so I think I will wind this up. I thank you. Thanks to the audience first for being here. And it was always over 100. It has just come down below 100 now. So there were a lot of people who had listened to you, sir.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yes. And thanks to Professor Rajendran
Thank you.
for such a wonderful delivery. You see, one more thing, I have seen theater people, they are reluctant about speaking. Theater people, their language is the theater. They don't want to talk about their experiences, but the way you spoke about experiences, and we could visualize and we could imagine, and it was also helpful for our students who have a lot of Karnads who play, who read a lot of Karnads plays as texts, but then we try to add the theatrical motifs into that as well. So I guess that will also help our students. So on behalf of the Drama Club of University of Gorbongo, I thank everyone who had attended. Of course, Professor Rajendran sir, for being so generous, for agreeing at the very first instance, and agreeing despite his bad health. He came over and spoke for such at such a length. I mean, for quite some time, and there was a wonderful interaction. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.